Alrighty. Again, hello everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Upskilling Your Tech Teams Shouldn't Be Complicated, featuring Jermaine Hernandez, our lovely sales engineer manager. We are so excited to have you with us today to learn more about the Cloud Academy platform. But before I hand off this webinar to Jermaine, I just wanted to highlight a few housekeeping rules. So this webinar is being recorded as usual. Um, it will be shared with you via email. More likely you will receive that email tomorrow. And if you have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A box and Jermaine will be able to answer those at the end of the actual demo. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over control back to Jermaine. There you go.
Awesome. Thank you for that lovely introduction, Tia. So hello, everybody. As she mentioned, my name is Jermaine Hernandez, Sales Engineering Manager. So I'm here as the product expert to give you a quick tour of the Cloud Academy platform. Now, for today's purposes, I thought it'd be really beneficial if I first introduced all of you, in case it's new, to the concept of skills intelligence, as Cloud Academy is just that, a skills intelligence platform. From there, we're going to jump into the demo. This is going to be focused on the end user's journey through our platform, while I'll also be helping you understand the impact this has on both administrators and managers alike. At the very end, we'll actually take a look at how easy it is to customize this journey for all of your learners. As Tia mentioned, if you have any questions, please be sure to throw them into the chat. You'll be sure to interrupt me and let me know if I need to get any of those answered. But with that, let's get started. So as I mentioned, we're really beginning with an introduction to skills intelligence. Most people have come to understand skills intelligence as a CRM for tech talent. So although our skills intelligence engine is fueled by validation, which is really just a fancy way of saying that students are proving knowledge through quizzes, exams, and live environments, the journey really begins with a baseline understanding of skill gaps. Those skill gaps are then targeted through the development of a custom training plan. What this leads to is a high-level understanding of how tech skills are growing and changing within your organization. We'll spend a lot more time here a little bit later throughout the demonstration, but one of the most amazing examples that I've been able to come across was one with Regeneron. They had a heavy focus on upskilling within Kubernetes and Docker within their specified time period. With just a couple of clicks, I can dive into a domain, and just like that, I can actually see at an organizational level how I'm performing across both of these tools. Regeneron was able to actually see a 554% in overall upskilling. We do have a phenomenal case study from our library that you can directly access after our call today. So that is your quick introduction to skills intelligence. Now let's transition to the demo portion. As I mentioned, this is going to be heavily focused on the end user. Now, most of you have probably seen an end user dashboard before, so I won't spend too much time here. The key takeaway here is that my goal is a level 1 data engineer. What I'm most excited to introduce you to from the user dashboard is the new user profile. So as I mentioned, we're really a CRM for tech talent, but we're also providing an area for students to manage their career trajectory. This includes an area to upload certifications as those are earned, with an easy and convenient way to add them directly to LinkedIn. But more importantly, is understanding how skills intelligence impacts the individual user. So as I jump into manage my skills as an end user, one of the first things that you'll see here is the ability to dictate which tech skills I want to track and follow as I upskill. What I love about this is that the objective of the end user determines what it is that they're following. Are they interested in creating internal efficiencies with your current and future tech? Are they interested in a promotion? Are they simply interested in getting better at their job? The decision is up to them. They get to select which ones they can follow. Over on the right, we can see where recent skill change has happened. And if I scroll to the bottom, we'll see the full indexed list of tech skills, where end users can actually star and select which ones they'd like to easily filter by, simply by clicking up here. But one of the greatest features here, in my opinion, is the ability to understand how I stack up within a specific skill set against the Cloud Academy student body. Should y'all decide to partner with us and actually use a full enterprise platform, end users would then have the ability to drill down into a particular skill set, see how those skills have grown, but more importantly, this will provide a condensed leaderboard for your internal organization. So what I mean by that is this leaderboard will show Michael his position comparative to the top 10 users within this category. So I very much love to leverage this leaderboard for Michael as a way to understand who he can turn to for guidance internally. Maybe tap Ali on the shoulder, ask her to jump on a Zoom with him to go through a lab, to go through a topic, or whatever the case may be. So how do we ultimately get to this point of the learning journey? Let's transition very briefly back to the administrative panel. Operationally, what we're about to walk through is the organization tab, where we organize all of your learners into virtual classrooms. How they're organized is ultimately determined by your approach. As mentioned, we baseline to understand skill gaps, and then we assign targeted training. We're about to take a slower, more intentional walk through the administrative features. Let me take a quick look at the questions and make sure that nothing has come up. All right, no questions. So, as discussed, how do we get the end user ultimately to that stage where they can really understand their tech skills? Well, as I mentioned, the very first thing is going to be to organize your users based on your needs. So very commonly, you'll see users organized based on your certification needs, at which point users can actually be organized into a particular cohort. Perhaps you're looking at career growth, so you can organize users by their job roles to help them move into that next level and next stage of their career. One of the more popular approaches, however, is a true representation of your organizational hierarchy. The reason this is so important is this is also how we control access to data. An administrator of the platform is all-knowing and all-seeing. However, jumping into one of these teams, you'll see that you have the ability to align a manager. Think of them as a small-scale administrator where they can edit the team, assign training to the team, but most importantly, view the data for said team. All of your learners will simply be members. Once organized, we're ready to turn our attention to training, which with us begins with that ever-important baseline assessment. It is impossible to know where you're going if you don't know where you're starting from. That is why baseline assessments are so critical to your learning journey. We offer baseline assessments in two formats, a text-based or theoretical exams, of which there are over 600 different available to you to leverage. One of the big reasons that this is such a large library of exams is that these are now also available through a pre-hire motion. But more importantly, what sets us apart within this space is the ability to leverage a lab challenge as a baseline assessment. I've mentioned it a couple of times, but as a little bit of foreshadowing, we'll talk about customization towards the end. But for now, understand that what makes a lab challenge unique is that we are giving access to a live environment to your users, then presenting them with a scenario. In this real world scenario, we're going to break something. The end user has to then apply their real world knowledge and skills and understand how to fix the problem. This is ultimately the truest test of practitioner level skills. What this leads to is an incredible skill gap analysis. So even if you're taking a multi-cloud vendor approach, you can see which platforms you may need to focus on first, but more importantly, perhaps which platform domains need your attention immediately. As a side note, we are also the only ones that provide the individual user assessment score. So for any L&D folks on the call, this is really focused on helping you put the right level of content in front of the right user. Nobody wants to be bored with the content that puts put in front of them, so let's make sure that we're keeping them engaged. This is also a perfect time for me to point out, again, that we would assign you a dedicated customer success manager if you decided to partner with us. We have our own in-house content teams, pardon me, and as a part of our content team, we have our own in-house content architect. Their job is to understand all of the library options and areas that we cover and actually help you build a completely custom training plan. For example, one of our cloud architects, content architects, Noam, brings 20 years of IT experience. So if you bring to him the skill gaps, where these skills need to lie, and within what time frame, we are then able to build you a completely custom training plan to get you where you need to be. So all we've really done is organize users, then baseline to understand the skill gaps. Now that we're ready to address these skill gaps, we're ready to start talking about a training plan. I'm going to say training plan and learning path a couple times today. For now, just note that a training plan is the mechanism to create accountability and set expectations. So when I come into assigning you training plan, I have the ability to assign it to an individual member, multiple teams, or an entire organization if need be. The route that we're going to walk through today is to an individual team. Step 2 brings us to our out-of-the-box training plans. You can easily filter by cloud vendor or additional topics as needed. So if you're looking to upskill your cloud architects, they're maybe brand new, just got hired, we can kick them off on the starter track. But step 3 is where our accountability really comes to life. For any training plan that's assigned, whether it is out of the box or completely custom, we are communicating 2 key metrics to you: content duration and average time to completion. Based off of these 2 metrics, you can dictate a weekly time commitment for your end users. As I adjust the slider, you'll notice the due date changes with me. Or more importantly, plan around your upcoming project deadlines. If you know for a fact that you really have to have this done by mid-August, let's say, you can set the deadline, then we'll show you what kind of weekly commitment it would take, easily communicate the training, business, KPIs, whatever objectives you'd like to your end users. Then we're ready to review and confirm and assign. The last couple of pieces that I'll mention that make the training plan so unique in terms of the administrative side is going to be the ability to stack and sequence training plans. So I'll come in here and assign the very next training plan. So as end users wrap up this initial training plan, even if it's well in advance of the deadline that you set, they will seamlessly transition into the very next training plan. In this fashion, a number of our existing clients are scheduling out learning for a full 12 months in advance to really help build a momentum towards a culture of learning, one where learning happens just every single day that they come to the office. Secondly, this timeline across the bottom helps those project managers better anticipate when they're ready and prepared for those upcoming projects. Now, this is very far from a set it and forget it. Should your end users start to fall behind, administrators and managers alike will have access to individual user progress, along with how they're tracking against that deadline that was set. Our platform will, if you decide to leverage them, automatically send up to 3 nudge emails as they fall behind. But I can always come in here and send a nudge to an individual member or an entire team. But at this point, the email will be coming directly from me, and I get to completely customize the verbiage and be as kind or direct and blunt as I need to be to get my users back on track and into the platform. So users have now been organized, baselined, and targeted training has been assigned through the training plan. Let's return to Michael's dashboard and very quickly see what this looks like. So as soon as the end user logs in, they land on their end user dashboard, and all of the assigned training is organized for them. This is inclusive of any assessments that you may have assigned. But if I click through, I can see the training plan that was assigned to me. I can jump in and continue wherever I left off. But one of my personal favorites is, of course, that transparency that we create with the accountability piece. So the end user can come click on one of these due dates and actually very easily and seamlessly set some reminders, adding them directly to their Google Calendar. So the user experience really comes to life through the library. Before I jump into the library and actually show you what an end user actually experiences, I'm going to take a quick sip of water and make sure there weren't any additional questions were brought up on the chat. Okay, we got a shy group today, no problems at all. Let's go ahead and jump into the library to discuss the complete end user experience. The first thing I'll mention here is that the library is in fact public facing, so please come take a look at your earliest convenience, ideally not during this demo. But there is a very powerful and robust search functionality within the library. So if you're looking for, say, containers, I would recommend searching, but more importantly, this is going to be one of the easiest ways to filter by platform, specific content type, but most importantly, the level. Outside of that, one of the things that I'm very proud of is if you hover over the Browse Library tab, you can actually explore our upcoming training. To be clear, we have our own in-house content teams that devote a full 25% of their time to ensuring that all of this content is up to date. And this is where you'll see what changes are coming. Any customized content you can actually organize near the top left corner of your own instance. Otherwise, all of our out-of-the-box content is organized by fundamentals, cloud vendors, pre-built role-based training plans, all of the certification tracks we offer, and of course, do not let the name fool you. We do not only focus on cloud. You'll also find things like DevOps, security, or even if you simply want to brush up on your programming. So let's discuss one of the next big topics that really sets Cloud Academy apart, and that's going to be the labs that we have to offer. We very briefly discussed the lab challenge being the unguided that can also be leveraged through a baseline assessment. What I'll show you momentarily is a guided hands-on lab. The third one you'll see here is a lab playground. This is a generally open sandbox. This tends to be very well received by more advanced users. And the fourth type of lab not listed here is a completely custom lab that can mirror your tech stack. Let's build that confidence within your end users before they're even in your production environments. So all of these different learning activities come together within what we call a learning path. As a reminder, the training plan was how we set expectations. A learning path is simply how we organize all of our learning activities in stepwise order on a given topic. Technically, this follows a learn, do, and validate. Learning is happening within the courses. I don't know about y'all, but I certainly don't like receiving a 3-hour video and being expected to see it in one sitting. So instead, what you'll find here is that we take a micro-learning approach, one in which the end user can seamlessly weave in learning into just a normal part of their day, while they're commuting, walking their dog, or have 15 minutes between a meeting. The end users will also come across knowledge check exams, but we'll look at a robust exam at the end of this learning path. But for now, what I really want you to see is our live hands-on lab environment. So our hands-on guided labs are unique to us for two big important reasons. One, as you're seeing here, these labs are text-based. So as changes come from the public cloud vendors, which seemingly feels daily, it is pretty easy for us to ensure that our labs are up to date. The other big reason that our clients love our labs, as you can see, is that we are providing credentials in an all-you-can-eat buffet to all of our lab environments. So through a license, you have access to our entire library and all of the labs that that comes with. So now as you're seeing, when I'm a user making my way through this, I simply copy and paste the username and password, and just like that, I have spun up my own instance of an AWS Management Console. The key takeaway here, however, is that we do bridge the connection between our lab environment and the console environment. So once an end user has to complete something, they'll actually have to run a validation check. This confirms or denies to the end user whether or not they were successful. It'll even give them a warning sign if they try to continue before successfully fixing it. But more importantly, what I'm highlighting here is the specific tech skill being tested at this step. Remember we talked about skills intelligence? If I stop here, then I'm going to see the skill score related to this topic decrease. I go back and fix this, wrap up this entirety of the lab, then I'm going to see all of those skills increase. This is pivotal to understanding the validation portion of our skills intelligence engine. Now, the other incredibly powerful piece for validation is, of course, going to be the ongoing assessments. In this case, we were looking at a certification track, the Solutions Architect Associate, one of our more popular ones. But if you're looking at a certification track, any certification track will have an exam at the end that mirrors the real-world exam in terms of time and number of questions. We also have a large bank of questions, so we highly encourage users to take this exam multiple times, as it is unlikely you'll see the same question twice. So jumping into an exam, one of the other really powerful pieces of technology that exists within our ongoing assessments is going to be our item response theory, IRT. What item response theory tells us is as Michael is answering questions in sets of 5. If Michael really struggled, didn't get a single one of them correct, then over the next set of 5 questions, it's going to get a tiny bit easier. If he crushed it and got every single one of them correct, then it's going to get a little more difficult. So even if 2 users pass the exact same 65 question exam, there's going to be a clear differentiation in what skill levels are really lying, where those skills levels are really lying, pardon me. But ultimately, we understand that providing an end user a score is so far from sufficient to what they need in their learning journey. So after the exam, in addition to the score, we also provide complete transparency into what skills were assessed, how the score was impacted, quick calls to action to either improve my score by jumping into a quiz or browse training directly related to a topic to shore up that gap. But especially for any certification goals, you can scroll to the bottom, and for all the questions, we're going to provide a correct answer, an explanation, and where appropriate, a link to external documentation for further reading. This is what I like to call the don't just take Cloud Academy's word for it. So that is the end user experience through courses, labs, and ongoing exams. So the last piece of today's webinar is going to show you how easy it is to customize any and all of this. So I'll show you 2 key pieces here as an administrator now. So as an administrator, you would have access to what we call Content Engine. This is simply the UI where you can customize everything we've talked about today, except those lab challenges. We do need to work side by side with you in case we need to bring in our lab team or content team, depending on how comprehensive those labs are. But what I do want to show you is how easy you can actually build a guided hands-on lab. Anytime we're building in here, in this case of the lab, we do need to determine which public cloud vendor we'll be using. But when it comes to customization, we can either build it completely from scratch, or if there's something you really like from our library but just want to make it your own, very, very easy to duplicate and do just that. If I scroll down, you can already see all of the steps I can dictate to an individual end user. So now it's simply a drag and drop for what I want these students to complete. But the important piece here is that simply by clicking on this pencil icon, you get to completely edit the step-by-step instructions. Now you're adding all of the internal or real-world context that you want. Screenshots from your production environment, warning signs, code snippets, whatever the case may be. One of my personal favorite ways to leverage this is if there is any kind of tribal knowledge with a power user at your organization, this is one of the best ways to begin sharing that knowledge within those lab and hands-on areas. So in addition to this, one of the more common use cases is going to be the ability to upload your own custom resources. So in this case, you can upload any flat file. If you need additional extensions, you just need to talk to us and we can get those added. We do also support a SCORM integration. So once uploaded, if you want to leverage our validation, you can actually generate questions against it, throw those questions into a custom exam, and then throw that resource, hands-on lab, and exam all into your own custom learning path. Let me show you what I mean. So as I mentioned, if you already really like something from our library, like that solutions architect learning path we were just looking at, you can come in here and get it cloned. And at the very next step is where you'll see you have complete control over what is included in this learning path. So now if certification is not the end goal, but a lot of these skills are relevant to what you need, now you're simply clicking this X button and removing courses, labs, exams, quizzes, really trimming the fat on this learning path to make it exactly what you need it to be. But then we can scroll to the bottom and add those custom steps we were just discussing. We uploaded a brand new resource that we wanted to make sure they viewed. To make sure that they read it and understood it, we developed a custom exam. And lastly, we developed a completely custom hands-on lab to mirror our tech stack. Now we're simply dragging and dropping. And just like that, we have built a completely custom learning path. Now to wrap things up here within Content Engine, keep in mind, I've said it a couple of times, we are a skills intelligence platform. So at step 3, you're going to see all of the different tech skills that you can align based on what was added. In this case, we duplicated, so there's already a couple of skills aligned. But the key takeaway here is that if you have your own internal specific skills that you want to track and monitor, we can get those added and reporting through our skill profile. So that is your quick introduction to Content Engine and how to customize the learning journey. Once more, I'll take a quick sip of water and make sure that no questions have come in. Doesn't quite look like we have any questions. So to wrap things up, let's return back to Michael's dashboard. And I want to show you one final key piece here. The process we walked through was actually the manager or administrator assigning training following that baseline assessment. However, if Michael here has his own ambition and drive to get promoted to that level 2 data engineer role, underneath the My Training tab, the end user can absolutely customize and self-assign training. As a side note, in case gamification is important to you, in addition to providing more details to the training being consumed, there is a training plan leaderboard where team members can keep track of how quickly, pardon me, they are progressing against this training plan. But as I mentioned, the end user can come up here and click on Create Custom Path. If the data engineer level 2 existed, then Michael would be able to come in here, select that specific job role, and be on his way to his promotion and being a happy employee that does not leave. Shout out to the great resignation of the last year. So what we've seen today was a quick introduction into the skills intelligence platform that Cloud Academy has to offer. Outside of that, let me make sure that there are no additional questions. That appears to be it. So thank you everyone for your time. Again, this is Jermaine Hernandez, Sales Engineering Manager at Cloud Academy. I hope you enjoyed the demonstration. If you have any questions, please reach out to us on the sales team, and we would be happy to provide either a personalized demo to your needs and give you a better understanding of the platform.
Jermaine, we actually have one question that came in while you were
Oh, good.
Saying,
I just saw it. Okay, cool.
yeah. So on a enterprise level, can this same learning training structure be used for non-cloud or tech skills in training structures?
What a phenomenal question. Yes, yes, yes. So that is exactly what I was referring to within Content Engine. So if you wanted to bring in, for example, maybe you want to train some salespeople on their soft skills. You can upload all of those soft skill resources that you want to bring in into the platform. Then you can leverage the validation piece if you really wanted to, and absolutely align those skills for custom tracking within that skill profile area. Thank you for that, Lola. What a great question.
Alrighty. Jermaine, I think that is it. That was the only question. We had one thank you from David, so thank you for that.
Awesome. Then if nothing else, that is all I had. Thank you very much to you for your help and hope to be talking to y'all soon.
Yes. Thank you all again. Just some reminders before we part ways. Again, the recording will be shared as soon as it's available, which will more likely be tomorrow. Additionally, you can find more webinars on our website that you can view at your own time and leisure. A brief end of the webinar survey will pop up at the conclusion of this webinar, and we truly appreciate any feedback. It helps us to continue to provide webinars and improve on them. So with that all said, thank you again, and we hope you have a wonderful day.